thought this was such a great relationship and I thought I was having so much fun, but I realized I was the one who brought the fun, right? Not them.
Period. And that's me. That's me. Clock it, girl, because that is me.
Welcome back to Sisterhood Tea Party. I'm Jessica, here with my co-host Stephanie, and today we are diving into all things relationships, friendships, dating, and even meeting new people. When should you trust your gut, and when are you just overthinking?
Plus, we're playing our favorite game, Overrated or Underrated. So stick around for some fun. But first, let's get into what's top of mind. Jess, we'll start with you.
By the time this episode comes out, this will have been out for probably a month and a half, but I've been thinking about Lady Gaga, okay? I am so obsessed with her new album, Mayhem. And with the warmer weather happening right now, you will catch me at a stoplight with the windows down, blasting this new album and singing and dancing along with no shame. And I cannot be bothered. And it's literally giving 2010, like getting ready to go out to the club, but instead of going to the club, I'm headed to Pilates. And I'm soaking up every second of it. I'm waiting for her to announce a tour because I'm like, well, I have to go now because I'm so obsessed.
I'm so excited about her album. I remember going to her last tour concert. Oh, it was so good.
You did?
It was so
oh my
good.
God. When was her last tour?
Did I not tell you about that?
No, I don't think so.
Oh my gosh.
When was it?
Yeah, it was the Chromatica. And it was, when did we go? 2022 or 2023? 2023, I think. Yeah. Yeah. I think I still have a shirt and everything.
I mean, we're already going to be going to Beyonce together. Surprise, everyone.
Correct.
We should go to Gaga when she announces too.
Oh, absolutely. I'm down because I had a great time at that concert. It was so much fun. So yes, when she announces her tour, we're going.
Yes. Okay, what has been top of mind for you?
So slightly unrelated, but more related to what we're kind of talking about today. I talked about this on TikTok a while ago, but I've been reflecting how important it is to set boundaries in relationships and also with friendships and how that's been playing a big part of my life. I feel it's important for me at least, to understand that I'm not going to let guilt question the boundaries that I set. And the people that are in my life are going to care about that and they're going to understand. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. That has just been on my mind lately. Assessing friendships and relationships and things like that. I got to make sure that I stand pretty firm in my boundaries.
I love that. It's so important. And I know we're going to get into more detail, but I truly think that setting boundaries is one of the most healthy things that you can do as an adult. Well, let's go ahead and dive deeper then into friendships, which can be tricky sometimes when it comes to spotting red flags or overthinking things.
When it comes to friendships, it can be hard to know when to cut ties or if you're overthinking things. So have you ever had that experience where you're wondering if a friend is still as invested as you are?
Absolutely. I feel like we were preparing for this episode. I feel like a big sign is when you feel like you are always the one reaching out or making plans. It feels very one-sided, and I think that's a major red flag, and healthy friendships should be reciprocal. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, especially if you're in a situation where you've been friends with someone for maybe a very long time, but things have become one-sided over time because we change as we grow and become adults and we turn into different people than we used to be. If a friendship starts to become one-sided, to me, it is a huge red flag.
100% agree. I used to be in the mindset of like, I'm just going to match your energy. If you're not reaching out, neither am I, but that is toxic too. You know, I'm like, well, two can play that game or both people have phones. I shouldn't have to do that in a friendship. Like, it should be balanced. It should be easy, right? It's important to recognize when a friend is not respecting your boundaries. Emotional dumping is a huge one for me. When someone constantly offloads their issues onto you but doesn't consider your emotional space. I had a friend like this where every single time she would call me, it was to talk shit. It was to complain. I was just like, hi, how are you? Did we forget about, these greetings? What happened to hello? I just feel so drained talking to you. I feel like she was always negative. She was always in a negative space. And eventually the trash kind of took itself out, but they were not considering my emotional space. And that was really frustrating.
Yes, also have had a friend like that, as you know. And I think that I'm like, are we talking about the same person?
We are.
And it's frustrating too, because when that happens, then you find yourself being like, ugh, I don't really want to answer the phone when they call. I don't really want to even bother texting them back. And then it's really fun when they're like, hey, I tried to call you. And you're like, yeah, I know. Like, I didn't answer for a reason. And it is tricky because, like, as friends, we want to be there to support each other. And I do think that there's going to be people who hear this and like stress, like, oh my God, do I trauma dump? Do I trauma dump? And I'm here to tell you, like, if you are worried about trauma dumping, you're probably not the person trauma dumping, because the people who are doing that, they're not worried about it. They don't even realize it. So, like, don't overthink that. Because there's a difference between being a supportive friend and feeling like someone is only around for their own needs. And so when your boundaries are repeatedly ignored, it's draining, especially if you've told them, hey, I don't feel like this is going both ways and it's not shifting. It can be draining.
Absolutely. It's easy to confuse a bad day with a bad pattern. Everyone has off days, but if a friend consistently makes you feel unsupported or invisible, it's really something to consider, because I've had this in a friendship where it just constantly, day after day, I'm just like, are you not seeing like where I'm at right now? Like, it just wasn't clicking. And you have to be able to understand and recognize that that person is just not meant to be in your life. And you have to kind of reassess, is this friendship worth continuing and pursuing?
Yeah, agreed. And I think that, like, I'm actually curious, because sometimes people might tend to overthink things. If a friend is late to lunch once or forgets to text back right away, like, that might not be the thing to overstress or overthink when it happens one time, but we should focus on that bigger picture. And, are they actually there when it matters? Do they show up for you when you really need them? And I am curious your thoughts on this. How many times is a pattern to you? If somebody flakes on you 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, at what point, and this may also differ if it's someone that you like see frequently versus not very often, but at what point does it start to become like, okay, clearly I'm not a priority to you?
I would say the magic number for me is 3. I think 3. I could even say 2, because I don't have an issue cutting somebody off. I think once it's like, okay, it happens, life happens. I've done that before. It happens.
Yeah.
Second time, it's like, okay, everything good. Maybe we should reassess. The third time, okay, at this point, I have tried to make an effort with you and you have bailed on me now for the third time. What is actually going on here? I think after that third, that's a pattern, and that's sending me a different message that this friendship needs to be reassessed.
Yep, I'm in the same exact boat there. And it sucks too. It's not always, it's sometimes like, damn, this didn't used to happen, but now this does happen. We're in different places. I'm no longer a priority in your life, and if that's the way it is, it just is the way it is. And it's a red flag to me.
I agree with that. It's also about balance too. We've talked about small hiccups happen, but when it becomes a pattern of being unreliable, that's when it's time to reflect. We talked about after that third time, it's like, all right, I have to reassess what is actually going on in this, friendship. So you can take this and ask yourself, do I feel good about this after spending time with this person, or do I feel drained? I feel like that is a huge indicator. Do I feel like this friendship is worth it after this X amount of time hiccup this has happened or whatever is going on? Ask yourself these questions to determine your next step.
Yep. And I think recognizing that it is okay to let go of friendships that no longer serve you. It doesn't always have to be this giant fallout, but friendships evolve, and not everyone is meant to be in every era of your life forever, and that's okay.
And speaking of evolving connections, I feel like now we can move into talking about, what it's like meeting new people. Sometimes your gut feeling can tell you everything. Jess, have you ever had that initial reaction to someone and you just know whether they're good vibes or not?
Oh my goodness, yes. Like, I feel like, especially in today's world and all of the social issues going on in the world, if I don't know why this always happens. I don't know why this always happens to me, but I feel like I've met people and somehow in the early conversation, they start talking crap about homeless people. And I'm like, what about me makes you think that this is an okay conversation to have? And like, my walls, my red flags, they all go up, because that speaks so many volumes to me. And it's so frustrating. And that's one example that has happened to me multiple times for some reason. Again, I'm like, what do I need to reflect about myself that's giving off that vibe that that's an okay conversation to have with me? But those are the kinds of things where I'm like, oh, like, they'll just say little things that indicate to me that they don't care about social issues in the way that I do. I'm not at a space in my life to tolerate that kind of friendship When I'm meeting new people, that's something that comes out a lot for me. Whether it's friendships, work, dating, I feel like meeting people can be overwhelming because these kinds of situations come up. And so I'm curious from you, what is your first instinct when you meet someone new?
I always trust my gut. The first impressions really can tell a lot, but I always try to give people grace too, to an extent. I think when it comes to social issues, and the first indication that I pick up that you voted against me and what I stand for and my rights, it's an immediate no for me. However, if it's a general meeting, I know that some people can be a little bit awkward and nervous at first, but if it feels really off, it usually is. And if I can tell that the vibes are off, and I'm talking about like pick me women. And I say this because I've met women who are oddly enough intimidated, which I'm like, why are you intimidated by me? But they'll come up to me, and especially if I'm in a group setting, come up and introduce themselves and be like, well, that's my boyfriend. I'm like, I love that for you. I don't want him. You're okay. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. Don't be put off by me. Like, I'm here having a good time with my friends, my girls. I don't want your man, okay? But like that kind of vibe. I've been in those situations where I'm like, okay, that was weird. Like, you could have just said hi, nice to meet you, and left it at that. But like, you had to like come up here and tell me this is what it is. So once that happens, it's definitely off, and I'm already put off the rest of the night, and that is a complete red flag to me.
That is like weird behavior. And that's embarrassing for her.
Very
Well,
embarrassing.
yeah, situations like that, and also paying attention to, in general, how people treat others, whether it's wait staff, people around us. To me, it's like a clear indicator of their character, which I think is why like the social issue stuff like triggers me so much, where I'm like, oh, that's red flag. Like if someone is rude to a server, dismissive to others, talking badly about homeless people, like whatever it is, like that's a huge red flag to me.
It shows how they treat people when they think no one is watching. And I'm like, ooh, that's icky. And if they are dismissive or talk down to others, it's a good sign that they'll probably do the same thing to you later on. And you don't need that kind of energy in your life at all.
100%. And I think it's important to remember that on the flip side of that, like we could be overthinking if we're focusing on certain things. Like if you're like, oh, did they compliment me enough, or did they text me back right away? Like those kinds of things are much smaller. Like they're not truly red flags. You're probably overthinking that, and something we need to kind of cut people some slack, especially like you said in those first interactions when you're nervous as hell. Like, I have major social anxiety. I'm probably so awkward the first time I meet people. I need a few interactions to open up, And so like, give people a little bit of grace if they didn't compliment you enough or they didn't like text you back right away. They were probably sitting there thinking and retyping the text in their note app like 5 times before they sent it because they have anxiety with it.
And that goes both ways because some people are just nervous. Like people meeting for the first time can be typically nervous, but we tend to overanalyze when we're nervous. Not every little thing means something deeper. It's important to give people a fair chance to show who they really are. However, I say that if the energy feels off the first time, trust your gut. Don't even try and like justify. If they are giving you red flag energy off the jump, that's what it is, and leave it at that.
100%. It's really all about balance when you're meeting new people. Like you really try to ask yourself, am I vibing with this person's energy? If it feels genuine, great. If not, it's okay to trust your instincts. Not everyone's going to be a fit, and that's perfectly fine. Not everyone's meant to be in your circle.
I feel like sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves to click with everyone. I remember there was a period of time of my life when I was much younger. I don't do it now, but when I was younger, like early 20s, I wanted to be friends with everybody. And I think it was part of being in a minority in a small town. It's really hard because you want everybody to like you and accept you. I wanted to be friends with everybody. And that obviously did not pan out that well. And as I got older and I like started removing people from my life that really were not serving me well, I realized that you do not have to click with everybody. You do not have to be friends with everybody else. It's important to remember that it's okay if you don't connect with someone instantly, because over time, people actually reveal who they really are, and you'll see whether that initial feeling was accurate.
Yep, and quality over quantity. I love that. Well, let's shift gears to the trickiest part, dating and relationships. Red flags and overthinking. They can really collide here. We love this topic. And it's hard to know when to trust your gut or when to give someone more time.
Dating is probably where we see the most confusion around red flags versus overthinking. It's really, really tough. And I'm speaking from way too much experience in this area, because when do you trust your gut and when do you give someone more time? I mean, I went back and forth with this, and all of my dating experiences, what am I doing? To be fair, when I think about when I was in my 20s, I was very much just making decisions solely based on red flags. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I can change him. I can. No, no. If you're listening and you're in your 20s, you're with a man and you think you can change him, you cannot. I promise you, you can't. And it's not worth it.
Have you heard the Taylor Swift song, I Can Fix Him? I Can Fix Him. What is it? I Can Fix Him. No, really, I can. I love that song so much because the energy of that song is like, I can fix him. No, really, I can't. I'm like, every single woman has been in that relationship right there where they're like, I can fix him. And everyone else is like, Lord help you. I'm like, yep, been there.
Exactly. And when do you trust your gut? And when do you give that person more time?
Yeah, I feel like a major flag for me, and obviously I've been off the dating market for a long time, but so many of my friends who are dating, a major red flag for me is when someone doesn't respect someone's boundaries, whether it's your time, your space, your emotional needs. Boundaries are so key to any healthy relationship. And if someone's consistently pushing those limits, that's a huge warning sign to me. And yeah, it's just not great. It's not healthy.
I agree. I feel like a lot of people get caught up in small details, like if someone is late for a date once, but that's not always a red flag. If they're late 2 times, 3 times, and it gets, the timing is long. They're late 5 minutes is not a big deal. If they're late 35, 40 minutes, that's kind of an issue, especially if they're consistently late and they don't respect your time. It's all about patterns. It becomes a bigger issue if you allow that to happen, and it's only going to get worse. You're not going to be able to make that change.
Exactly. Yeah. Patterns are everything. If they're making you feel like an afterthought or they're inconsistent in their communication, that is when the red flags need to go up. But one-off things like being late due to traffic might just be life happening. And so I do think it's important to kind of evaluate what is going on there. Is this a one-time thing, just like we were talking about with friends, or is this something that's happened 3 times? Probably not great.
And communication is so important. If someone makes a mistake, like missing a date or saying the wrong thing, how are they handling it? The way that somebody responds to something that's happening is a huge indicator of like how they are, right? Do they apologize sincerely and they try to make it right? Or do they just brush it off? Are they dismissive? Are they like, I don't know why you're making it a big deal? That is a red flag, by the way. How they handle conflict is an indicator of their emotional maturity. I've dated men that are not emotionally mature based on the way that they respond to certain things. I remember one of my exes, we had a conversation, we were bickering about something, and it was minimal. And the way he turned around and got so angry with me and was so dismissive, and I'm like, okay, it really wasn't that serious. I don't know why you're getting caught up in this, in your emotions right now. Like, relax. If you would just sit down and talk to me, we could figure this out. But you want to act that way. The way that people respond to conflict is a huge indicator of their emotional maturity.
1,000%. It's at the end of the day, it's the overall effort that counts and how you handle those situations. It's easy to get caught up in anxiety, whether you're dating or in a relationship, of wondering, why didn't they text me back right away? But it's often more about our own insecurities than actual behavior. I think that's an emotional maturity thing too, being able to distinguish for yourself, am I overthinking this, or is this some kind of pattern that I need to be assessing here? Someone who gets defensive continuously when you're bringing up problems.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like overthinking, gets to the best of us. If you're wondering whether you're seeing red flags or just overthinking, we need to just take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Are they respecting you, your time, and your feelings? And honestly, don't even worry about the whole part of like, oh, if they like you. The most important question to ask is, do you like them? Do you see yourself spending more time with this person? I feel like that is the real indicator to knowing like, okay, based off of what I've seen, everything's checking the boxes. Like, do I actually like this person, or do I like the idea of them?
Yeah, 100%. And if they're consistent in showing up and making an effort, then that speaks volumes. I see people online talk about this concept of, oh, I thought this was such a great relationship and I thought I was having so much fun, but I realized I was the one who brought the fun, right? Not them.
Period. And that's me. That's me. Clock it, girl, because that is me. I'm like, wow. And I was telling you this earlier. I'm hilarious. I'm beautiful. I'm fantastic. And I'm like, wow, I'm really carrying the conversation on my back to make this work. The relationship was fun because I made it fun. Yes. So anyway, a man has to keep up.
Exactly. I think that's so important though, because I'm so glad there's that awareness in in women today that I feel like wasn't always there in the past. I love that you recognize that about yourself because you do bring the fun energy. And I feel like if you're in a situation where you're questioning where do you stand and you're like, but I have fun, that's probably something to pay attention to because maybe you are having fun and you are the fun, but maybe they're not the right one. You know? Oh, I rhymed.
Exactly. I like that. I like that. Now that we've kind of talked about friendships, meeting new people, and dating overall, we're going to lighten things up a little bit with our favorite game, overrated or underrated.
Yes. Okay. So you guys know how this goes. We throw out a topic and we decide is it overrated or underrated? Are you ready, Stephanie?
Yes. Ghosting in friendships and relationships. Is it overrated or underrated?
I'm going to say it's appropriately rated. I will say I was thinking about friendships in this, not relationships. If my husband ghosted me, that would certainly be problematic, but
That would be a problem.
or if I ghosted him, it would be very bad. Don't do that.
This would be a very different conversation we're having.
But I will say, I think it depends on the situation. Like, I do think it can be very emotionally immature if you're like super invested in someone. It's someone that you're spending a lot of time with, a lot of energy with. You're making promises to them about the future, or about plans, or whatever it might be, friendship or relationship. And then there's just this lack of closure that leaves the other person confused. And to be frank, can really damage a person for their future relationships. That is certainly inappropriate. But I do think that in friendship breakups in particular, I wouldn't call it ghosting. I wouldn't go block someone on everything and not explain why. I also think that I shouldn't have to explain to you how you're not being a good friend to me. If you're being toxic in some way or you are not reciprocating in some way, I don't always feel the need to have that conversation because then it can feel fake. I shouldn't have to tell you that. We're all adults here. Be self-aware. I've done the work. Have you? And so I do think it's okay to soft ghost, I will say, in those situations
Yeah,
versus
I like
hard
that
ghost.
concept. Yeah, I like that concept of soft ghost. I think it also is appropriately rated. I will say, like, yes, ghosting does show, a lack of respect for the other person's feelings in dating. However, if you are in a situation where like, your safety matters, I would say absolutely ghost, block, do what you need to. Outside of that, if you don't like the way he chews food, maybe you should like say that or something. Like, you don't have to ghost him for that. Maybe you say something, be like, hey, listen, maybe close your mouth when you chew. I'm not talking about anybody in particular, but like, I'm just saying, like, that's fine.
Okay,
But
but
like, if it's in your
I'm
what?
so sorry to the memory of. Wasn't there a situation with a man wearing flip flops on a date for you or something? And like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
you gave
Yeah.
him the
And I
courtesy
did.
of.
And I gave him the courtesy. I said, listen, I can help you. I just don't want to date you. So let me send you links to some shoes that are not flip flops for you to wear on your next date. I wish you the best. He was like, it is what it is. I'm like, it is what it is. Have a nice life. Don't wear
So
flip
mature
flops
of you.
again.
You could have
Yeah.
ghosted him,
You're
but you
welcome.
didn't.
So yeah, I didn't ghost him. No. I didn't ghost him. I gave him the courtesy. But at the same time, I get it. Some people want to avoid conflict. It happens often. It's like I said, it's appropriately rated. I say it also depends on the situation.
Agree. Let's do the next one that's up, which is hanging out in big friend groups. Overrated or underrated?
I'm gonna say it again, but it's also appropriately rated. It depends on the situation. I guess I could say appropriately rated slash underrated. Large groups can be fun for big events, but it's also harder to have deep conversations and get to know other people and have those meaningful connections. And that's why I still, out of between big friend groups and smaller hangouts, I still prefer smaller hangouts. I just feel like that's just better to have more intimate conversations, getting to know people, really building those connections. And I will always value a smaller group hangout over a large one any day. But I still think that they're appropriately rated because if you're at a concert and you're with a group of people, like you can't hear anybody anyway, you're just vibing with your group. I think that's fun. What do you
Yeah, I
think?
agree. I think it's appropriately rated because I will say that most of the time I'm in small groups. I mean, I do big groups for like events, right? Like weddings and stuff, obviously, are big groups, and those are always fun. Um, but really, since college, it hasn't been really big groups, and I think, or like since my wedding, but again, that's different. But I love the idea of it. I love the idea of, again, in college, I was always planning these big parties and I would invite everyone and it was themed. And I wish we all lived close by and I could do things like that, but they wouldn't be Sex in the City themed now. They would be like Although that could be like a fun, classier version of the one that we did back then. Maybe it would be more like, a May Day party, it'd be cutesy and we'd all make flower crowns or something. But those are fun. But I do think that, like you said, like it's the intimate conversations that really build like strong connections. And so small groups are also.
Yeah. I also forgot to mention big groups. I've done big group settings for my birthday. And I think we talked about
Yeah.
this too, where one of the birthdays I had 25 plus people. That was a vibe too, because that was a different setting where all 25 people, I knew them obviously, but everybody got along. That's the beauty about my friend group is that here, that everybody gets along. We have
Mhm.
they're different groups, different settings, all different walks of life, and they don't necessarily hang out with each other, but when they all come together for me, everybody's vibing. I look around and I'm like, wow, everybody's getting along with each other, even though they never see these people outside of my birthday once a year.
Yeah.
And it's just a cool thing to see.
Yeah. Love it.
Next, setting boundaries in friendships or relationships. Is it overrated or underrated?
Well, very on theme for today. I would say underrated, of course. I think I said at the beginning, I'm like, boundaries are like the most healthy thing that you can do as an adult, in my opinion. They're so essential for these healthy relationships. And without them, you're going to end up feeling overwhelmed. And I just think everyone needs to prioritize setting boundaries. So very underrated.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like boundaries help maintain respect and balance. It's not about being distant, it's about making sure your emotional needs are met in a healthy way. However, I will say that it's important to make sure that you're not using your boundaries as a way to avoid tough conversations or responsibilities. It's important to be honest about where you're at and what you need. There's a difference between genuinely protecting your peace and then using boundaries as an excuse to bail on commitments or not to communicate. So it is underrated. However, make sure you're not, using that and abusing the fact that you have boundaries because it's not an excuse to make you be a shitty person. Like you still need to
Yes.
communicate. You still need to be honest about where you're at with your friends and people around you.
Yeah, on that front, going back to what we were talking about earlier, flaky friends, if they flaked multiple times, I get sometimes your mental health isn't well or you have something going on and you need to cancel something. And that's a healthy boundary you prioritize yourself. If you have to do that repeatedly over time and you've gotten to a point where you've excluded your entire community because of it, that's you avoiding something. And I think that's really the difference. So, lastly, sliding into DMs. This is a fun one. What do you think? Is this overrated or underrated?
It's so interesting. I think it's both underrated and overrated low key. I say underrated when it's done respectfully. It can be overrated if you're just sliding in with like a heart emoji or a fire emoji. Like, please don't, because that is not going to get my attention. Okay. I'm just going to look at it and keep moving. But if it's done respectfully, if you actually are coming at it like nice, I think it's a good way to start a conversation, especially with everybody being on social media, with, Instagram, TikTok, and then of course dating apps. However, there is a fine line between being like super flirty and cute and respectful and being just downright creepy.
Yes.
What do
I
you think?
agree. I wouldn't even say it's about the approach. To me, it's about if you're a man or a woman, period. If you're a man, do not come in my DMs. Because the only DMs
That's fair.
the only DMs I get from men are, hey baby, you have a lot of bills. Can I pay for your stuff?
Yes.
Like, hey daddy.
I saw that
like,
on your story.
yeah. Literally, hey, have you ever thought about selling your feet pics? Sir, get out of here. Or even the ones that are not that level of creepy are like the heart fire, and then weeks later they slide in with a question. And I'm like I didn't know you were trying to build up for this. Blocked, goodbye. No. If you're a man, no. Now if you are a woman, slide in my DMs. Let's be best friends. I want you to. Yes, please. Like Chrissy, Chrissy, her and I met because she slid into my Facebook DMs and was like, hey, we have mutual friends. We both moved to this new city together. This is back when I lived in San Francisco. We should get drinks. And I remember I messaged you and I was like, hey, did you go to school with her? Like, do you know her?
I was like,
cool?
yes.
And now we're best friends.
Chrissy's like one of the very few people from high school that I really liked. She was just all around she's an amazing person still, but she was just the chillest of the chill people in high school. No drama, wasn't fake or any of that. When you messaged me about her, I was like, absolutely hang out with her because she's fantastic.
And I'm so glad that I did. And now I'm like, okay, someone else, like, let's be friends. I love when girls slide into my DMs. So, yeah, let's chat. Let's be friends.
I'm all about it. There you have it, friends. Those are our takes on ghosting, friend groups, boundaries, and sliding in the DMs. So we want to know what you think. I want y'all to let us know in the comments, on our socials, DM us because we accept those kind of DMs.
Yes. So before we wrap up, let's leave you with one of our other favorite segments, the last drop of tea for the day. Stephanie, take it away.
Don't be afraid to walk away from relationships that no longer serve you. Whether it's a friendship or a relationship, it's okay to prioritize your peace.
I love that advice. My last drop of tea is trust yourself. Your gut knows when something isn't right, and you should always listen to it.
I love it. Thanks for joining us today on Sisterhood Tea Party.
And don't forget to subscribe and follow us on social media at Sisterhood Tea Party. And if you love today's episode, please drop us a review. I feel like we're begging you every time. Please, please, please drop a review.
Until next time, keep trusting your gut and don't be afraid to let go of what no longer serves you. Bye, friends.